What's going on YouTube? This is MetallicTCG here, coming at you with kind of like a deck profile slash deck kind of like discussion here. So, a little bit of a backstory. When I first started getting into Magic the Gathering, there were two cards I had a lot of affinity for. One being Thromok Mob Boss, because again, I love goblins. I love spamming the board with infinite goblins. And also, of course, just having a lot of shenanigans they do offer. And two, I remember picking up this Plane Chase deck with Thromok the Insatiable. I could be saying that wrong, I don't know. But anyway, I always held on to those cards, and then when I got back into Commander about in 2018, I believe it is, 2018, 2019, I built Thromok like right away. And then after like 20 other decks that I did build, I decided to go back to Thromok the Insatiable because again, it was just such an important card for Magic for me. So for what those who do not know what this card does, it has Devour X, where X is the number of creatures devoured this way. So as this card enters the battlefield, may sacrifice any number of creatures. This creature enters the battlefield with X plus 1/1 counters on it for each of those creatures. So the idea with this deck is that you're gonna make a lot of tokens really quickly, and then you're gonna summon this dude, try to get him having haste as soon as possible, and just going either for commander damage or using other things to get him super high powered, and then using other means of winning the game. I've only done a few play tests of it. It's actually been pretty good. I've actually came pretty close to just getting an entire board win by using such cards such as Impact Tremors, and of course the more powerful one, Warstorm Surge. But either way, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through the deck one by one card, kind of like give a brief synopsis of it. But basically, again, you just make as many tokens as you can, and then you just get this guy out as soon as possible. And you have a bunch of other cards that help kind of like, you know, deal with that as well. So let's just get into it. And I do want to give a disclaimer. This deck, well, for one, there's, you know, a bunch of like, you know, stuff here in the sideboard. This is just stuff that I've been looking into, kind of like cycling out here and there. Like Blasphemous Act and Crippleth Right. And those are going to be cards I could really look into as well. But anyway, so I know this deck can be exceedingly more powerful, right? If I added such cards such as Mana Crypt, Gaia's Cradle, etc. And this list is actually before Adventures in Forgotten Realms, so I haven't really updated it yet. So this is basically the list that I could see myself building financial-wise and also proxy. Like, I could make a separate video for a, like, you know, tier 1 as much as I possibly can version and just make monetary just not even an issue. But for now, I'm just going to kind of go with this, so I hope you guys enjoy. So first off, we're going to be playing Anger. As long as this card's in your graveyard, all your any control mountain, your creatures have haste. Really good. We have some discard outlets anyway, such as, like, you know, Faithless Looting and other stuff like that, so it's pretty good. Because honestly, discarding this card is not hard at all. We also have Ant Queen, CMC 5. You can pay 1 and a green to be able to put an insect creature token onto the battlefield. Again, there may be situations where it can be just nice having, like, you know, some token gen, especially if you combine it with things such as Doubling Season and Parallel Lives, you know, the way how it goes. We also have Arista of the Endless Web, a really good card. It's a 3/5, CMC 4, it has reach. Whenever your opponent casts an instant or sorcery spell, you can get a 1/2 spider creature token with reach. Really good, just protect you from dying, and also the fact that, you know, if you get this card out early, you know, pretty early on, because we do play a good amount of ramp, you can benefit a lot because, again, your opponents are going to be trying to do ramping and target removal, so, you know, I do like Arista in the deck. Avenger of Zendikar, of course, we do have, again, this creates a lot of tokens right away for plant creatures, plus it has a landfall trigger, not too shabby. We also have Brawn. Again, with Thromok, we're going for pretty much like, you know, getting him out as strong and as big as possible and just start swinging. So having cards like Brawn and, of course, Anger can be very beneficial to just giving, you know, your creatures those added benefits without having to worry about paying extra mana. Because, again, we have discard outlets. We have other ways we can get rid of it, too. Dockside Extortionist. What a great card. When it enters the battlefield, it creates X token treasures equal to the amount of numbers of artifacts and enchantments your opponent control. This card is really good later on, just when the boards are pretty established. However, a 2-drop to be able to get some treasures, it's a treasure of itself. Dragonlair Spider, kind of like Arista, the Endless Web, but this one's actually a little bit better because it's whenever your opponent casts a spell. So it doesn't have to be an instant or sorcery, it's just any spell. Really nice. We have one Dragon Master Outcast. At the beginning of your upkeep, you have control of 6 or more lands, create 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying. It's a pretty easy 1-drop. Honestly, it's a good devour target, but also if you do happen to have access to 6 or more mana and it's later in the game, Again, just creating a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying is really good, especially if you have things such as, like, Impact Tremors and also Warstorm Surge, stuff like that on the board as well. So it can give you a little bit more value depending on how you play it. We have Elvish Visionary. One of the things I've been looking into doing is just trying to add a little bit more draw. Like, this deck definitely needs a little bit more draw here and there. So Elvish Visionary was pretty decent. I actually used to have, I believe it's Viridian Emissary instead, which is pretty much when it dies, you get to, have a, it's like a Sakura Tribe Elder. But, I mean, so far, having Elvish Visionary is pretty nice for a draw, and it's an easy 1-drop. Farhaven Elf, again, it's ramp, but it's also Devour target, so pretty good. We're playing Cadets Emberclaw Familiar. Whenever your commander deals combat damage to an opponent and deals damage to each other player. Again, this could just simply be potentially a blowout, depending on when you get it out. Being a 2 CMC 1/1 and also a partner is actually pretty interesting. I might want to do something with this. Llanowar Elves, pretty easy. It's a CMC 1, tap it for 1 mana, pretty good. Meiotic Slime. When this card, Meiotic the Slime dies, create a 2/2 green ooze creature token when this creature dies, creates 2 more. So it's pretty good in the fact that it just kind of like keeps splitting up, So you drop, so you pay CMC 5 to be able to get, this board, and then when it dies, you can create more, and then just more and more. So it's pretty good. We're also playing Mycloth, CMC 5. It has Devour 2. As this creature enters the battlefield, you can sacrifice. You know how Devour works at this point. At the beginning of your upkeep, create 1/1 green sapling creatures for each +1/+1 on Mycloth. Pretty good, honestly. Just be able to have, like, continuously just dropping more and more sapling tokens is really nice. Nest Invader, Tomb CMC. When it enters the battlefield, you can create an Eldrazi spawn and sacrifice, add a colorless. Not too bad for ramp, but also just a sacrifice outlet for either one. We're also playing Plantleth World Sculptor. When it enters the battlefield, you can create a 0/1 for each basic land you control. We actually play a fair amount of basic land, so it's actually pretty nice. Whenever a land enters the control in the battlefield, put 4 +1/1 counters on target plant you control. Since we are playing Avenger of Zendikar, we already do have a lot of plant creature token synergy as it is, plus some other cards, so it's actually pretty good with the landfall triggers as well, because they do come up pretty often. And honestly, just making a ton of damage with just a plus, plants is actually kind of funny. Scoot Swarm. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, you can create a 1/1 grain insect creature token. If you control 6 or more, create a copy of this card instead. Again, just pretty good token gen. Playing Sideboard Muse. Again, we don't play a whole ton of instants in the deck, unfortunately. But it is just nice having access to open mana, especially for some of the things that we can, like, tap for more benefits and stuff like that. Kind of like with the Ant Queen, we could just simply keep on tapping and just keep on creating more insect creatures during our opponent's turns, which is pretty nice just, again, for the sacrifice outlet, but of course also just protection for ourselves. Solemn Simulacrum, again, when it enters the battlefield, ramp. When it dies, draw. Pretty good. Stalking Vengeance, whenever the creature you control dies, it deals damage equal to its power to its target player. So here's the thing I kind of like about this. Again, the main aspect is sacrificing for Devour and making our creature as big as possible. However, there is a lot of synergy with the deck of itself that does have benefits when creatures die or sacrifice, this just being one of them. Again, it could just be a great way to politic and just be able to destroy your opponent by just doing more damage. I never really got this guy out too often, but again, it is an option. It does have haste too. Tendershit Dryad. It does have an Ascendant one. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 green sapling creature token. As long as you have the Sitting's Blessing, they have +2/+2. Again, we have other cards such as World Sculptor to be able to make... Oh, that's actually a plant. My bad. We do actually have some cards that do make saplings. I'm sorry, it's Mycloth. So, again, just pretty cool if you have the Sitting's Blessings, because this will just basically make them pretty big. So... Again, they'll become 3/3s at that point, which is pretty nice. And honestly, it is not hard at all to get 10 or more permanents with how many tokens that we do create. We also have Totally Summoner. It does have another City's Blessing trigger. When it attacks, you can pay X into red. And if you do create that many elemental creature tokens that are tapped and attacking, at the beginning of the next end step, exile this creature only have the City's Blessing. So again, just really good token creation and also just applying for more pressure. Again, getting the Sitting's Blessing, not hard at all to do. Really not hard at all to do. So, we also have the important Wood Elves. Again, enter the battlefield to get to search your library, put a force on the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. Good for ramp and good for Devour. So, for the Sorcerers, we have Chandra's Ignition. Again, the idea of this is just pretty much a board wipe, honestly, at the end of the day. You can target a creature your opponent that you control, probably going to be Thromok or something else pretty big, and just deal damage to each creature or opponent. Again, kind of like a Blasphemous Act, but it doesn't destroy Thromok probably himself. Cultivate, again, ramp is very important. Very important, plus with the landfall triggers. Decimate, I don't know why you have this interesting one, but it, again, destroy target, artifact, creature, land, and enchantment. So, again, just really good for spot removal. Again, I don't understand this one either. Faithless Looting, draw 2, discard 2. Again, just really good for discarding like your anger and stuff like that. I don't really get these R's, but they're actually kind of funny. Fungal Sprouting. So put X 1/1 green sprouting tokens on the battlefield, or X is the greatest amount of creatures you control. Greatest power among creatures you control. Again, you make your Devour creatures insanely big, or even just something like, you know, Avenger's Zendikar. Again, you can just get a lot of tokens for a little mana. Pest Infestation, destroy up to X target artifacts and or enchantments, and then create twice as many black and green pest creature tokens when this creature dies, gain a life. Again, really good just for getting rid of a lot of things. We do have things to be able to get rid of. And again, just more of that creature dying synergy. We can also get some life gain back with this pretty too. Shamanic Revelation, draw a card for each creature you control. You gain 4 life for your creature if you control a power or greater of 4. Again, we make a ton of tokens. It's going to be a great draw. Skyshroud Claim. Again, put 2 forests into the library, from your library onto the battlefield, then shuffle it. Really good considering the fact they don't enter tapped. Star of Extinction. Destroy target land. Star of Extinction deals 20 to each creature and each planeswalker. Again, I don't like playing land destruction, but again, it's only 1 land. But being the fact that it is kind of a board wipe is pretty nice. Thromok, if you play it right, if you at least get a Devour 5 or more, it will survive most likely. So, and again, that's a lot of damage to each creature and planeswalker as well. Sylvan Offering. This is actually a really fun politicking card because you get to choose an opponent, and you and that creature, you and that player each create an XX green creature token, and then you get to choose an opponent, and you and that create X 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens. So again, you'll be able to create a ton of tokens on your end, especially if you combo off with Parallel Lives or Doubling Season. Plus, you can also just do a little bit of politic and get into like good favors of other people. And also consider the fact if you are able to combo this off with Warstorm Surge or Impact Tremors, you're getting a ton of damage because Impact Tremors hits each opponent, while Warstorm Surge is to any target to its power. So you can kind of use Warstorm Surge as like a politicking card, and Impact Tremors just like kind of like, you know, keep everybody kind of like at a decent level going down. Thud. Sacrifice creature, deals damage to any target for its life. Pretty good just for getting rid of players or creatures if you need to for cheap. Traverse the Outland. Search for up to X basic lands where X is the greatest power of your own creatures you control. Put those lands onto tap and then shuffle your library. If we have a big enough creature of itself, paying 5 for this is actually insane because you can pretty much get almost all of your basic lands and just throw them onto the battlefield. So you're going to be set up well for next turn. For lands, they're pretty straightforward, honestly. We're playing 36. We have Ancient Tomb, Cinderglade, Command Tower, Crackhouse Pathway, Driven Mine. Again, there's not like really anything specifically that's important that is inherent to the deck. It's just basically making sure we have enough green and red for the deck. We do play Krikstead Wolf Run just because giving a creature trample right away is actually pretty important. Like, honestly, just even playing 1 green-red is actually really good, just giving your commander trample. But again, if you have a ton of floating mana that you can activate, you know, it's just good to have it there as well. This gives you an extra 0/1 creature token. Again, not too bad. Enters tap, so, you know, it is what it is. Kerkeep, again, just paying a 1 and a red to be able to make Corbold of the Kerkeep. Again, just token gen. That's how we do. Myriad Landscape, Reliquary Teller, Rogue's Passage. Just making creature unblockable is really important too. Just to be able to get into that extra damage. Again, same thing of the Scourge of the Rout Pits. Not too much there. Stomping Ground, again, just good. Awakening Zone is really good because at the beginning of your upkeep, you can create a 0/1 Eldrazi small token with sacrifice it, gaining access to a colorless. Again, more token gen and also just having access to, you know, mana is really important. We are playing Crypt of the Right apparently in this build, so let's go. Creatures you control have tap, add 1 mana at any color to your mana pool. This is actually really good, especially if it's your turn, because you have a ton of mana. Like, if you're going to plan on devouring your creatures anyway, if you just simply, you know, tap all your creatures first, and then get a ton of mana, and then play your commander, and then have, like, some other spice and fuel in your hand, again, you're going to be popping off pretty good. We are playing, like, 15 different enchantments. I've literally thought about making, like, an Enchantress sub-theme as well, but I ended up with just going this theme. But I might tune around with the idea of an Enchantress theme. Doubling Season, if an effect will create one or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that amount instead. And if an effect will put one or more counters on a permanent you control, it creates twice as well. Again, doubling season just breaks this deck and just makes your stuff insanely powerful. Super seriously powerful. Fidency. Whenever a creature dies, that creature's controller may draw a card. Again, we sacrifice a ton due to the Devour mechanic, and also just sacrificing our creatures for mana anyway at points. So having that draw is going to be really good. It does make your opponent draw as well, but that's not inherently a bad thing, because this deck is kind of like developed to kind of like build up your board and then just explode out of nowhere. Plus, having this on the board, it may make your opponents kind of look at you at a pretty decent light where they don't want to get rid of you, because when their creatures die, especially if they're playing an Aristocrat style deck, they want to have that draw, you know? Fires of Yavi Maya. Creatures you control have haste, and then you can sacrifice, and creatures get +2/+2. This is actually pretty good because it is an instant sack outlet in case we need to get a little bit more stronger, but, you know, the haste is really good. Fist of the Ironwood. When it enters the battlefield to create 2 sapling creatures, and the creature attached has haste. Really nice, plus token gen. Footfall Crater. It pretty much has the same idea. You enchant a land, though, and you can tap, and a target creature gets trample and haste until the end of the turn. Our commander is CMC 5. That's not terribly hard to be able to get out. So just to be able to have access to an instant way just to tap and make it, you know, with trample and haste, pretty good in my opinion. Pretty good. Rolling Rites of Footmock. When enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 of your library, reveal the creature from them, put it to the hand, then put the rest at the bottom of your library. And if you're beginning of your step, if you control 4 more creatures, you can flip over a Grilling Light of Footmock. So it's a flip. It's pretty much a Gaia's Cradle, like a very, very budget, well, not very budget, but a more budget version of Gaia's Cradle. Again, we do like having access to a lot of mana, so it just makes a lot of sense if we need to bust out our commander pretty quickly, or just, you know, play off some like really good stuff. Guardian Project. Again, when a basically when you play any creature, you pretty much draw a card because commander is a singleton format. Impact Tremors. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, each opponent takes 1 damage. Again, really solid considering we make a ton of tokens and just a very combat-oriented deck. Night Soul. You pay 1, exile 2 creatures from a single graveyard. Important there. And then put a sapling creature token on the battlefield. Again, kind of like the idea I had with, like, you know, stuff like Sideboard Muse. It is just really nice to be able to have access to more mana and just, like, you know, stuff like this. And getting rid of cards in your opponent's graveyard is actually pretty nice for you to benefit. Primal Vigor, pretty much the same thing as Doubling Season, ultimately. With the funkier art, but no. It pretty much does, like, the same thing. So it's just more means to it. Rhythm of the Wild gives your creatures either +1 or +1 or haste, and they can't be countered. Generally, you're going to go for the haste, but the +1/+1 doesn't hurt, especially if you have other means to get your creatures haste. Sylvan Library. At the beginning of your draw step, you may draw 2 additional cards. If you choose 2 cards from your hands during the draw on this turn, for each of those cards, pay 4 life or put the card on top of your library. Again, just a really good draw. Warstorm Surge. Again, play a big creature, destroy your opponents. Pretty solid. For the mana, for the the artifacts, we're playing Arcane Signet. Pay 2, tap 1 for your commander's CMC 2. Add 1 color of any of your commander's identity. Really solid. Lightning Greaves. Again, making your commander Shroud and also haste. Super important, super good. Skull Clamp, again, we have a lot of, you know, like 1/1 creatures and a lot of 1/1 tokens. So paying 1, especially if you have a ton of mana from, like, you know, it can be very good just having that draw, especially as well. Plus, again, we do have certain things for, like, you know, dying triggers. So, like, for example, where'd it go? Financially. So, like, you can simply like attach this over to your, like, your 1/1. It dies. Skull Clamp allows you to draw a card, but then, you know, this will allow you to draw another card. So drawing 3 cards off of 1 mana is pretty insane. It's pretty good. Soul Ring, of course, because it's commander. Swiftfoot Boots, again, hexproof and haste is really good for your commander. Vidalcan Orrery, again, this is just a really good card, having cards be able to play as flash. Again, it combos off insanely well with Sideboard Muse. I'm a fan of Command Zone and Game Night, so you might as well play the card. Whisper Clove. Creature can be blocked and has Shroud. Again, really good for protection for your commander. Plus, unblockable is really nice as well. We have, for instance, we have Artifact Mutation. More artifact destruction, but it does create X green sapling tokens, where X is that converted mana cost of that artifact. It's a 2 CMC, and it creates tokens and destroys artifacts. Pretty good, especially if your opponent's playing something like really, really impactful with artifacts, and has like something really big CMC. And also goes for artifact creatures too, so that's also good to keep in mind as well. Chaos Warp, this is actually really good. You can get rid of your own problems of your opponent's board. You can also just, you know, potentially, if your opponent tries to, like, you know, exile or something, you can even target one of your own permanents. Send it back to the deck, shuffle, and then maybe get something better in return. It's a good card for different situations. Fling, same thing with Thud, but this is an instant, so you can even just sacrifice, like, you know, your commander if you need to, if it's going to get destroyed anyway, or one of your big creatures, and it just deal damage to them. It's pretty good. Fresh Meat, create a 3/3 Greensprings creature for each creature put into your graveyard from the battlefield this turn. Again, this also kind of implies with, like, you know, the Devour mechanic, so it's actually pretty good. Again, we do a lot of, like, you know, there's a lot of deck that does happen with the Devour mechanic and also just board wipe, so Fresh Meat can actually be pretty good. Second Harvest, it basically just creates a copy of all your tokens, which is nice. We don't have, like, you know, legendary tokens in here, so don't have to worry about the legendary rule. It's an instant, it's a 4 CMC. It can also just give you a ton of tokens as well. Soul's Fire, basically the same thing as Thud. It's just, it costs, I'm sorry, Flame, but it just costs a little bit more, but you don't have to sacrifice, which is pretty nice. But yeah, again, there are some cards I have been tinkering here and there with the sideboard. I'm going to go over those briefly. Blasphemous Act, just a really good, you know, board wipe essentially for monsters. We already talked about this. This is actually in the deck right now, so we're actually good. And Dragon Brood Mother, I'm sorry, is actually pretty good just because it does create a bunch of tokens, and it does also have Devour 2 into play as well. I'm still debating about adding this card or not. Like, it's a high CMC, but that's not really much of a problem. It's just like, you know, how many tokens we do get and how much it does keep making. Is it really worth the CMC to, you know, put it down, you know? Elvish Mystic, again, just more tap, you know, mana. Feed the Pack. At the beginning of your year, may sacrifice a non-creature token. If you do, put X/2/2. Words, sacrifice of the creature's toughness. I thought about this. It's 6 CMC. It's not too bad. This is an enchantment. It happens at the end of your end step. But in theory, it just doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense since we only have like a few really powerful monsters on the board at a time. Goblin Assault, 3 CMC. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token. They must attack each turn of Fable. Not too bad, not too bad. I've been thinking about this one. It just, like, makes you have to, like, you know, keep on attacking, and you don't always want to make your goblins unblockable because you want to save your mana for other things. Harvest Season, kind of like the same idea for the other cards. Transverse the Outlands, but I feel like this one was just a little bit better in general. Because, again, unless you're playing this with, like, Cryptolith, right, or something, or go, like, your main 2, I feel like the other one's just a little bit more better situational for the deck. Hellion Interruption, you pay 6, sacrifice all creatures you control, and then create that many 4/4 red Hellion creature tokens. I'm still debating on this one. It's pretty nice just because it kind of turns your lower tokens into something higher. But I kind of thought about it, when it also could be an issue because at that point, Skullclamp may not become very, very live. So I'm still kind of like tinkering with the idea. Horn of Greed, kind of like another whole group hug thing. You play a land, you get to draw a card. Kind of like just making my opponents see me not much of a threat, just kind of like leave me alone. Hornet Queen, when it enters the battlefield, create 4 1/1 greens. Not too bad, actually. This is still something I'm tinkering with, just because the Death Touch is pretty nice. Hull Breach, choose 1, destroy target artifact or target enchantment, or destroy target artifact and enchantment. Again, a lot of target and artifact enchantment destruction, which is really nice. Still debating on this one, but it's still not a bad idea as well. Life Legacy, again, drawing is really nice. Honestly, paying 2, sacrificing a pretty big creature. Drawing cards equal to that sacrifice creature's power. Still pretty nice. Still looking into it. Might be an ad. Mage Slayer. When you attack creature, equips a deal. When equipped creature attacks, it deals damage equal to its power to defending player. This could be a blowout, but generally a lot of our things have unblockable anyway. So it just makes, you know, it's kind of like, you know, why we already have so many ways to make them unblockable and stuff. So adding another one might just be a little bit overkill. Same thing kind of like with Manifold Key, though this is actually kind of a cheap artifact to play, so potentially. Parallel Lives, pretty much the same thing as like everything else, like with Doubling Season and Primordial Vigor. Honestly, I would probably want to add this anyway to it, but my concern at that point is like just the price. Because again, this like would be something that I would consider building, and a lot of support from the cards, like, you know, the higher value cards like Doubling Season and stuff like that, they can be interchangeable in a lot of token gen decks. I do have a mono green token elf deck anyway, so I could always swap it out and just put it there if I really wanted to. Spore Swarm, create 3 1/1 green sapling tokens. 3 creatures for 4 CMC, not too bad. They're at 1, it's an instant, so it's pretty decent. Especially since we have like stuff like Seedborn Muse, we could just use it during our opponent's turn, you know, what to be the case. And also Ushut the Hate Seed. When it enters the battlefield it enters the battlefield on a 1/1 counter for each other red creature you control, and each +1 with each other green creature you control. Remove 1, be able to do one of the following. You can either deal 1 damage to target or create more sapling tokens. Honestly, I'm still debating about this card, but it does have a lot of utility and synergy with the deck of itself, but we're still kind of just we're kind of chilling. But with that being said, in 25 minutes later, this is kind of like an idea for the first final draft of the deck. Still got to do some play testing here and there when it comes like with Discord and Tabletop Simulator. If you enjoyed me going on about this deck for about almost a half hour, hit that subscribe button and comment down below what your thoughts on the deck is. I know this deck is probably not the most competitive, but it's definitely pretty fun. And if you have any suggestions or tweaks onto the idea, let me know in the comments section below. I would love to have a discussion about this deck. My name is MetallicTCG, and I'm going to be signing off. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Stay safe and stay hydrated. Take it easy, everyone.